Karol Markowicz with us. She has the Karol Markowicz Show, which if you want to listen to it, I highly recommend you do. It's great. Lots of folks are really enjoying it. It's on the Clay and Buck Podcast Network, so just subscribe to Clay and Buck Podcast, Clay, Travis, and Buck Sexton Show. Karol Markowicz Show will be in that feed for your listening enjoyment. Karol is with us now. Good to talk to you, Karol. How you doing?
Hi, guys. How's it going?
Good. So tell us, you like me are a fellow New York City refugee, and New York City has been turned into an actual refugee camp. And part of that is the giving of cash cards to these refugees. Notice how they won't use that term, but if they're seeking asylum, they are in fact refugees. Why won't they just say that? They've come up with this new vague sort of catch-all migrant term. Anyway, but if they're giving money to the refugees, how much, what are the rules, how much will it cost, and why should we think it'll stop at what the numbers are right now?
Right. So the story broke that the New York City mayor had come up with this plan to give $1,000 a month to 500 migrants who are living at the Roosevelt Hotel. It's going to be a pilot program, and it's going to start with just those people. And the idea that he said was that they were wasting a lot of food. The migrants weren't eating the food that was provided to them for free. And so this was a better way. This was a way to have them buy their own food and deal with their food themselves. Okay, as soon as I heard about this, I thought this is a terrible idea. It's so wrong. You know, you do the calculations, $12,000 a year times 500 migrants, that's, $6 million. And that's an insane amount of money, right? Any New Yorker could easily use an extra $12,000 a year. We have homeless people, we have vets, we have single mothers. All of them can use $12,000. But the thing is, we find out today in Nicole Jolinas' column in the New York Post, the best newspaper out there, that we wish it was $6 million, Buck. It's nowhere near $6 million. It's going to be a $53 million no bid contract to some dude you've never heard of at some bank you've never heard of to print these debit cards for the migrants. And the total should be again $6 million, but because they're obviously going to be taking a cut, it's a $53 million contract. And the mayor gave it to this man because he met him on the campaign trail and he liked him, allegedly.
Well, hey, that's good for that guy, I guess, if you meet him on the campaign trail. I'd like to meet people. Give me $53 million out on the campaign trail. Karol, I wanted to get your read. And again, I encourage everybody to go check out the Karol Markowicz podcast as part of the Clay and Buck podcast network. Story came out from Siena. We've had this conversation with you. You're from New York originally, relocated to Florida like Buck. Jewish voters in the state of New York, 53 to 44. That Siena poll said that they were supporting Trump over Biden. Now, as Buck has pointed out, and we talked about, there are a lot of Orthodox New York Jews who tend to be more conservative. Maybe that's not representative of the Jewish population nationwide. But when you saw that in the wake of October 7th, they've tried to say Trump is Hitler, Trump is a Nazi for 8 years now. Are you feeling Jewish voters moving? Do you think that's representative of maybe the Jewish electorate being up for grabs in a way in 2024 that they never have been before?
Absolutely. I think the Jewish electorate has been moving rightward for a while. I've written about it in the past. Trump got, I think, 35% of the Jewish vote. Ron DeSantis got 40% of the Jewish vote in his run in Florida. It really depends where. But when I saw those numbers, obviously I'm taking it with a grain of salt. We don't know what's going to happen. I don't feel like the campaign has begun yet, where the Democrats are going to come after Donald Trump with everything they have. He's going to be an insurrectionist who wants to destroy our democracy, and he's going to be painted as an anti-Semite and all of these things. So we'll see where these numbers really end up. But I think Jews have been moving rightward for a while. Of course, it's the Orthodox that are leading the way on this. It's the same as in non-Jewish population. If you go to church, you're more likely to vote Republican. If you go to synagogue, you're more likely to vote Republican. So what's really happening is the secular Jews, who would be the Democrats, the Woody Allen Jews that you kind of think of when you think of a New York Jew, are really breeding themselves out of existence. They're not having as many children. They're not having as many Jewish children. There's this joke, what's the difference between a secular Jew and Donald Trump? He has Jewish grandchildren. So
that is a great joke. Yes. Yeah, that's good.
So that's where we are, and I think that we're going to see a shift. I hope it's that big, but I'm counting on small moves for now, and hoping it trends in the right direction.
You think that some of the issues, Karol, around around parents and parenting stuff, and we're running the whole cycle here. We got Karol on New York City, on the Jewish vote, and now on mom stuff. So because it seemed like such a big issue. We still see Haya from Libs of TikTok doing what she does and showing the indoctrination programs ongoing. I feel like it has the left. They haven't stopped this stuff, but are they less aggressively in our faces about how they want to indoctrinate kids? Because it feels like we're not talking about it very much. And to me, the electorate, that's a 60-40, maybe 70-30, maybe even higher issue on a lot of this stuff.
For a lot of it is, but I have to say that Republicans just don't fight back in the same way. So, for example, the porn in school libraries conversation that should be a complete win for Republicans has started to poll badly for us, for the voices of sanity who don't want pornography in their children's school library. That's no longer a winning issue somehow, because they've painted us as book burners and, if you don't want pornographic images and you want to get rid of, classics. And obviously it's all ridiculous, but there's no real fight back. And a lot of the groups are fighting back, but I think that the party does not do a good job of mounting the attacks back. I also, there was a story in Free Press today about a Brooklyn public school in my old neighborhood of Park Slope that they had a snow day, and the parents found out that they were giving out coloring books, BLM coloring books, to their kids. And they only found out because it was a snow day and the kids were home and they had the coloring books with them. So this is still being pushed in all of our schools. We just don't always know about it. The insidiousness is really a large part of it. I wrote about this in my book, Stolen Youth. They know that most parents will not want their kids indoctrinated. Even the far left ones won't want it coming from the school necessarily. And so they do it really quietly, really secretly, and parents need to stay on top of what their kids are getting in school. Otherwise, they're going to be definitely susceptible to getting BLM coloring books.
They better be careful with what those kids color the people in the BLM coloring books, because God forbid you misgender or miscolor an individual in the BLM coloring book.
You're not
Karol,
yeah,
we're talking. Buck and I have been a lot, and we took some calls on this. If you look at the data, men are overwhelmingly voting, assuming it's Trump v. Biden, for Trump.
Right.
Men, if only male voters were involved, Trump would win. And I'm not even kidding about this. Arguably, Trump would win all 50 states. Mm-hmm. If only women voted, Biden might win 50 states. I mean, we're talking about one of the biggest gender divides that we've ever seen. Right. So, Karol, when you look at this, does who Trump picks as VP matter if it's a woman? How can Trump cut into what is going to be a huge advantage for Biden in your mind when it comes to female voters?
It's so tough because, like I said, the campaign against him has not truly begun yet. And I think when it does, we're going to see some, serious attacks on him. I think the abortion thing is going to be big for these suburban, women voters. But I think a lot of the comments that he's made over the years, all of that's going to be playing in our faces over and over again. In theory, a female vice presidential pick should maybe help, but I don't see it necessarily being the case here because these liberal women are very good at compartmentalizing conservative women into being not really women, not really the kind of women that we want. So I don't think a Kristi Noem or Elise Stefanik or whatever, I don't think any of these kind of left-leaning suburban women are going to look at them and say, oh, that he picked a woman, therefore I'm going to vote for him. I wonder if he picks Nikki Haley, if he picks up more kind of Republican-leaning women who would maybe go out for him if he had a woman as his VP. I'm not so sure. I don't know. I think he should pick the candidate that he thinks would be best to take over should anything happen. I think that's what we should be doing in all facets of our lives. Perhaps we shouldn't be doing, this demographic thing that we keep doing. We end up with, the Kamala Harrises of the world as our VP. Perhaps we should choose based on merit. I know that's not really a
crazy idea
right now. This is a lot of wisdom, and I love all of it, by the way, because first of all, I totally agree with you. I don't think that we conservative. So there's a problem that you've identified. I keep talking about here on the show, and it is that conservatives don't get credit for DEI. It doesn't matter. If you have a black vice president, you're not going to win more black votes. If you have a female vice president, you're not going to win more. We keep doing this. And it's a little weird because on the one hand, conservatives say it's about the person, not the color of their skin, not their gender, not any of those things. But then we play that game too sometimes because we think somewhat cynically, oh, well, we can benefit from it as well. And we don't. And we kind of undersell our own principle with that, right? It's like if there's a black female vice president who's the best Republican for the job, it shouldn't be because of the fact that she's a black female. It should be because we think she's the best. So it doesn't matter, right?
Yep.
But I think we get away from that far too easily.
Absolutely. And look, Republicans have picked up more Hispanic voters in the last few years. They picked up, again, more Jewish voters. They picked up more Asian voters. And they haven't had a Hispanic presidential candidate or an Asian presidential candidate or whatever. It hasn't mattered. They've earned these votes in other ways, not saying like, look, I'm going to pick a diversity hire and look, this person, looks like you, therefore you should vote for them. That's just not how it works.
Karol, on the way out, I think I made fun of your Dallas Cowboys last time. And afterwards, you said your son wanted to fire back at me. So on the biggest radio show in the country, I will give you an opportunity to allow your son to take shots at my favorite teams. So fire away. Yeah.
So my 8-year-old, I said, Clay Travis made fun of the Cowboys not being at the Super Bowl. And he said, who's his team? And I said, I think it's the Titans. And he said, a Titans fan is making fun of us? Which,
it's a good response. I mean, your 8-year-old, he dunked on me. He dunked on me. So I wanted to give you a chance. Congratulate your 8-year-old. There was a study out recently, Karol, that my friend Jacob Ullman at Fox Sports sent me that said that Tennessee Titans fans drink more than any other NFL fan base. And I said, you know what? I can see it. I'm guilty as charged. We lose a lot.
Subscribe to the Karol Markowicz podcast by subscribing to the Clay Travis and Buck Sexton Show podcast, and then go listen to Karol on demand. Karol, great to have you here.
Thanks, guys.